Alright, hello, this is the test that's coming up on tomorrow, on Tuesday. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and start working out the problems for you. What I would like you to do is to not copy anything until I'm done. That way you're able to go ahead and just really listen and then copy. Alright, the first type of questions on the test will have to do with multiplication. Remember, multiplication is the only time when x multiplies x and it changes, it becomes x squared. This is the only time we'll change the x's when you're multiplying. So we always multiply by using the box method. Alright, so again, don't write any of this stuff down until I'm done. When you put x and a 1 on the top, don't put the plus sign. When you put the x and a 2 on the side, do not put the plus sign. We don't want you to add. This is multiplication. X times x is x squared. X times 1 is 1x. 2 times x is 2x. And 2 times 1 is just 2. Now once we write those down, we're going to remember that the middle two are actually going to have to be combined. 1 plus 2 is just 3. So x squared plus 3x plus 2. Now take some time and write that down. Now we're going to go to number 2. Again, if this wasn't enough time for you to write this down, just pause the video for a minute, write it down, and then let's go ahead and go to the next one. Now for number 2, it's the same thing, except this one has a negative sign. So that's the only thing that's a little different. But remember, when you're writing it up, just put a little itty-bitty negative sign there. We don't want you confusing that with a minus. Don't put a minus sign like that, because then you'll think to subtract instead of a multiply. And here we have x and 3. So remember, x times x is x squared. X times negative 1 is negative 1x. 3 times x is 3x. And 3 times negative 1 is negative 3. Now remember, these two are going to combine. So that gives me x squared minus 1x plus 3x minus 3. Now these will combine. And it says negative 1 plus 3 is positive 2. X squared plus 2x minus 3. Biggest mistake I'll see on a test, the little answer looks like this. You forget the x here. Make sure to not forget the x. So I'm going to step back for a minute and let you copy this down. Again, remember, don't copy it down when I'm talking. Copy it down when I'm finished. That way you've heard it and then you're writing it down. Alright, number 3, again the same thing. We're making sure we're not falling for the same tricks. Again, remember a little itty bitty negative sign right here. And an itty bitty negative sign right there. Now, 3x times x, remember the 3 comes down, but x times x is x squared. It becomes 3x squared. 3 times negative 2 is negative 6x. Negative 4 times x is negative 4x. And negative 4 times negative 2 is positive 8. Remember, these two are going to combine. So end up with 3x squared minus 6x minus 4x plus 8. And if you combine these two together, that gives up a negative 10x. 3x squared, negative 10x plus 8. This one kind of tricky, so you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to check it using a calculator. So I'm going to put this one and this one. The problem before I start and the answer when I finish. I'm going to plug them to the calculator. First thing you do is go to y equal to. Put in the problem. And then go to y2 and put in the answer. Now there's two ways to check. The first way is by looking at a graph. Here's the first one. There should be no other graph. Because the second one, if it's the right answer, we put right on top of it. When we were in class, this was black, then it turned blue. So as you can tell, there should be only one graph. And then we go to the table. And we're not looking at x. We're looking at the first y and at the second y. And all the numbers should be the same. And they are. This is the correct answer. Again, take a little time now. Write out the answer choices. I'll pause the video as needed to make sure to give you time for that. Here's number 4. Alright, 3 times 2 is 6. X times x is x squared. 3 times negative 4 is negative 12x. 7 times 2 is 14x. And 7 times negative 4 is negative 28. Finally, the answer is going to be 6x squared minus 12x plus 14x minus 28. These will combine. That ends up giving me 2x minus 28. So far, you guys should do really well up here. This is a really big part of the test, is this multiplication. But an even bigger part of the test is this right here. Alright, so let's go ahead and start messing with that. What they say here is simplify. Simplify means make it simpler. There's just too many things out here. I'm going to see if I can combine them together and make it simpler. So I just circle the stuff that goes together. Now notice, I keep the sign with the number. So that's 4 plus 3. 4 plus 3 is just 7. Now I also notice that these go together. So I'm going to write them down on top of each other again. Negative 5x plus 2x gives me negative 3x. And finally I have negative 8 all by itself, so this just remains all by itself. Final answer, 7x squared minus 3x minus 8. You see how it looks simpler than all of that? Same thing right here, but I notice there's something different about it. The thing that's different about this is it has parentheses. So I'm going to look outside the parentheses if there's anything there to multiply first. There's nothing out here, so I just write down the 6x squared minus 2x plus 1. That one stays alone. But outside this parentheses is a negative sign. So I'm going to have to distribute that negative sign all the way around. A negative times 2 is a negative 2x squared. A negative times a negative is a positive. And a negative times a negative is also a positive. Now that I distributed all the parentheses, because you always handle parentheses first, now I look at this and I remember that I'm supposed to simplify it. So it's too many stuff, let me organize it. These two will go together. These two will go together. Now watch this, it's kind of tricky, there's no number here. Make sure you put 1. And these two will go together. This will give me 4, negative 1, and 2.